Well, hey everybody, Maddie here with Altcoin Buzz. Happy hump day, happy Wednesday. Hope you're having a great one. As you can see, we have a little bit of a new format that we're launching into today. There may be some, slight wrinkles that we have to iron out, so bear with me here, but we are trying to, as I've mentioned in the past, we're trying to endeavor to increase the quality. Altcoin Buzz is expanding. There's a lot of fun stuff that we're excited to bring you. This is part of the offering, so increased quality in terms of the video content that we put out. Let's get right into the news. However, we have a lot to cover today. We're discussing crypto.com from a couple of different perspectives. We have updates from Chris Marcelek and the broader team. On Altcoin Buzz here, we're going to give you an inside look into a podcast that was hosted by one of our own, hooked to the chain, aka Frank. We have new records being set by Ethereum's hash rate that continue to grow and grow and grow, which is a very good sign for the DeFi space in its totality. Blockchain, according to PricewaterhouseCoopers, which is the major consulting firm, is expected to add about $1.76 trillion, that's trillion with a T, to the global GDP, gross domestic product, in the next 10 years. That is by 2030. A lot of people are talking about that. And in the context of what's happening now, which is coronavirus, which is the pandemic, you have JP Morgan, which is coming out and posting record profits to the tune of $9.4 billion. We'll be discussing that juxtaposed against the fact that Johnson & Johnson has paused its vaccine trials due to some complications in some of the test subjects. So you have this kind of mixed economic model where the banks are performing really well. You still have negativity on the part of what the pharmaceutical manufacturers are doing with regard to COVID. And yet, despite that, you have some very positive news that's come out of it in the form of, in the cryptocurrency world, partnerships between VIDT and IBM, which we'll be diving into. Guys, if you like this kind of content, Bitcoin, blockchain, cryptocurrency, be sure to like and subscribe. All right, there you have it, guys. So not to bore you with my ugly mug for the entire video, but there you have it. This is Maddie. This is what I look like. And with that, let's launch right into the market update for today. We're on CoinGecko.com. Things are down a little bit as of right now, down 1% to $367.2 billion. We've seen a pretty good week overall, really double-digit gains. If you look at some of the top 10s here in the ranking, Bitcoin up 7.4% this week, and other projects up well north of even 10 and 20%, including Chainlink. Take a look at this, up 24% during the week. However, today we're on a down day, unfortunately. Bitcoin down 1.1% in these last 24 hours, sitting right now at just below $11,400 with a dominance of 57.4%. Okay, so Max Keiser, who's a host on the RT Network Russia today, he's also a major Bitcoin bull and proponent. He's talking about how Bitcoin is the fastest horse in the race. And really, this is just a segue into somebody that I think you should follow on Twitter. It's not Max Keiser, actually, but Max had the following to say: K-shaped recovery equals neo-feudalism. The extreme wealth concentration created by COVID becomes permanent. This would be a new dark ages. Bitcoin fixes this. But check out this amazing artwork here by Mexican Crypto Art. They respond: Max Keiser, life and death are illusions. We are in a constant state of transformation. And I'm only really raising this topic here to suggest that you should be following Mexican Crypto Art, because they have, first of all, a great thread that you could follow on Twitter. @Mex Crypto Art is the handle right there. And it's just a very creative, not only creative, but it's kind of nuanced and insightful. And the best art, in my opinion, is the kind of art that has a message and that can be poignant at times. So I would highly recommend you guys follow Mexican Crypto Art. Again, @Mex Crypto Art. And you guys can check them out for yourself. Highly recommended. Okay, in other news, we're talking about Crypto.com now and Chris Marcelek. They have a whole series of updates here and a couple of milestones that are worth celebrating. @Chris_HK. Users can now check live CRO annual percentage yield rates and total CRO deposited into Supercharger using the link below. Current APY sits at 22.58% with 176 million CRO deposited. No lockup is required. You can read more about that on Crypto.com. Also in the news here @Crypto.com, new CRO yield rates launched today. This is yesterday for new terms. See the many ways to get CRO yield, and there are many ways, including the syndicate, where you can get 100% and more APY. DeFi swap 50% and more, Supercharger 25% more, Crypto.com earn. You can have flexible 1 month and 3 month contracts. You can also look into exchange rewards that are associated with the credit card. And here's what's really important, guys. Crypto.com, they've been a partner of ours, as you know, for a long time. It's been a very positive relationship. I think bilaterally we've both benefited, and they've just surpassed 5 million users. So here is the tweet @Crypto.com. Of course, make sure you're following. We surpassed 5 million users. thank you very much. Full statement about this milestone and what's next can be found on blog.crypto.com. And as a reminder, guys, you can always avail yourselves of the $50 CRO credit card that is available. You can find the link in the description and both the comments below. You get $50, we get $50 for the activation. In full transparency, it's a win-win for all sides. And not to launch into this article here, but we're also celebrating the fact on altcoinbuzz.io that crypto.com DeFi's wallet has been added to Wallet Connect. You can read about this development in full. Deepika here lays it out. Wallet Connect will now make it possible to connect the desktop dApps like DeFi Swap with crypto.com DeFi wallets. This means low entry barriers and the mass adoption of decentralized applications. So good news and kudos all around. At AltcoinBuzzIO here on Twitter, ever wonder when or how the term DeFi was first coined? Kind of take it for granted now. It's slowly becoming a household name, I would argue, but it originated somewhere. Curious to hear about how Frontier.xyz, MantraDAO, and Tomo Chain are making waves in the DeFi space. We'll check out this Defining DeFi episode, which is hosted by our very own Hooked to the Chain, aka Frank, and he does some great work here. Frank does a great job hosting. It's a great discussion for about an hour or so. If you're curious about the origin of that term, not only that, but what these great projects and firms are up to, then be sure to check this out. Again, it's linked to here in the Tomo Chain tweet. We're also slowly keeping an eye on Ethereum's hash rate, talking about DeFi, of course, amid all this growth that we're seeing and all this this hype and enthusiasm, mostly justified. It's perhaps a little bit overheated, you can argue, but all in the midst of this, Ethereum has hit a new all-time high in the context of this DeFi growth. So their hash rate, or the network's processing power, hit a rate of 254,000 gigahashes per second. That was on October 6th. The previous all-time high was 248,000 gigahashes in August of 2018. So, you know, it's one thing to see trading volumes and I think to see projects kind of reach stratospheric proportions and to hit all-time highs. This to me is a little bit more quantifiable. And not to say that trading volume isn't quantifiable. That's very important too. This is perhaps a secondary metric that's on par with trading volume. It speaks to the fundamentals behind kind of some of the hype. So it's nice to see that DeFi's growth is, again, quantified, is backed up by some hard numbers here in terms of the new all-time high network hash rate. And there's more to look forward to in the future. This is a report that has been circulating this week. Blockchain can add potentially $1.76 trillion, that's trillion with a T, to the global GDP, gross domestic product, by 2030. This is according to PwC, aka PricewaterhouseCoopers. And if you put that in perspective, $1.76 trillion would be equivalent to 1.4% of the global economy. So PwC economists assess the potential of blockchain across various industries ranging from healthcare, government and public services, manufacturing, finance, retail, and logistics, and they expect a majority of businesses in these industries will use blockchain technology in one form or the other by 2025. They found that provenance, payments and financial instruments, identity, contracts and disputes resolution, and customer engagement will be the top 5 use cases of blockchain in the next 10 years. And by 2030, China and the United States are expected to add $440 billion and $407 billion to their GDP through the expansion and use of blockchain, while Germany, India, Japan, and the UK will be the other top hubs of blockchain innovation. You can browse the highlights of the report here on pwc.com and download the full document itself. Time for Trust: How Blockchain Will Transform Business and the Economy. At Altcoin Buzz News has this positive development here to report. I want to kind of share this and then briefly actually step back and discuss some of the context in which this is happening. But at Altcoin Buzz News, IBM, VIDT, Datalink, and other project partners are excited to announce the use of a corona safety indicator sensor, which will help identify poorly ventilated spaces where COVID-19 can thrive. So a very positive development by any measure. However, I first want to actually take a step back to get more of a macro perspective here in order to set the stage and provide some context. We're on Forbes.com looking at this article from the 13th of October, so from yesterday. JP Morgan, nation's largest bank, so the United States' largest bank, they just posted $9.4 billion of reported profit, which has blown away every expectation from pretty much every Wall Street analyst. And, there are different reasons for this, but this is really happening at a time where, for all kinds of reasons, not the least of which is COVID-19, coronavirus, of course, people were not expecting these kinds of results. They were actually expecting much more of a lukewarm or stalled economy, particularly as reflected by, these profits by JP Morgan. Here you have the soaring net income was largely attributable to a more than 60% decrease in the bank's provision for credit losses, which are expected losses from delinquency or bad debt. The provision fell to $611 million in the first quarter, from more than $1.5 billion last year, and far below the $2.5 billion analysts were expecting in light of the coronavirus's pandemic's blow to personal income. And here's kind of the key takeaway as expressed in a quote by Jamie Dimon. Despite significant uncertainty in the environment, the firm is unwavering in its commitment to drive an inclusive economic recovery, advance sustainable solutions to address climate change, and improve the lives of our customers, especially those in underserved communities. So that's kind of an all-around marketing pitch, I suppose. That's a vague statement in my opinion, but that's courtesy of the firm's billionaire chairman and CEO, Jamie Dimon, who I know that many of you out there in the altcoin buzz army, rightfully so, probably aren't exactly fans of. He's a bit of a charlatan, I'd say, especially at least in terms of his opinion with cryptocurrency and Bitcoin, that's for sure. But he said that in a statement released alongside earnings. And I just find it very interesting because here, juxtaposed against that very positive news, I guess you have some negative news. It seems, that the JP Morgans of the world, and, I guess you could argue that it cascades down, it trickles down into smaller firms, but people are still making money. There's still opportunities in this space despite this environment, this climate that we're living through now, which is difficult for a lot of people, and understandably so. Here's the negative news. Johnson & Johnson have paused their coronavirus vaccine trials, basically because individuals in those trials, I guess the test subjects you'd call them, came down with some inexplicable illnesses and complications and side effects. So it's a weird paradoxical situation because on the one hand, you have banks basically setting records that are far surpassing expectations. On the other hand, you have this news really as we enter now into a new flu season that the coronavirus for a lot of people and a lot of communities and countries is actually getting worse. But, that's not to say that opportunities aren't there. And I think that's exemplified really by JP Morgan and by Jamie Dimon. Whether you like him and whether you like the institution or whether you hate them, the fact is that they're capitalizing on the situation right now. They're still able to turn a profit. They're still able to be successful. The world is not grinding to a halt. And again, with that context kind of being laid out, I think that's really well exemplified by this story here. IBM and our friends over at VIDT Datalink have partnered. So that's fantastic news. They've done so in order to integrate corona safety indicator sensors. This is an article by Lori, and I think it just highlights some of the optimism that we can still have. The optimism not only in this current economy that is presenting some challenges, but this is part of that, I think, incremental set of steps that's required to hit that $1.76 trillion in blockchain by the year 2030. Things like this, opportunities are still out there. The world has not stopped. It has not stagnated. So new sensors are able to analyze the air quality of a room, a monumentally helpful task in this era of COVID-19. These sensors will be integrated into their much anticipated Internet of Environments project rollout. So these corona safety indicator sensors will be ideal for places such as government buildings, schools, offices, homes, basically any building you can imagine where people commonly congregate and maybe go about their business or even live. It's big positive news for VID, and they have successfully also issued new smart contracts recently after the KuCoin hack with B2B and B2C NFT non-fungible token functionality, as well as Binance Smart Chain compatibility, a real fillip to the team and their community. Also, some massive news sees them listed on Binance as well. They've been doing pretty well as of late. Again, in a down market today, we are down 0.9% right now. Things are evolving as always, but they are up. VIDT Datalink, that is, ticker VIDT, they're up 2.8% on a down market day. So this is very positive news. Any integration with IBM is a positive development, at least in my opinion. And I think you guys will agree that this is a positive story in light of, again, these global circumstances that are kind of continuing, that are kind of being extended. For many of us, we talked about this idea of a 15-day lockdown to flatten the curve. what is that, 6, 7 months ago now. I'm not complaining about it, but it is an observation. Things have really kind of escalated, I think, much more than we would have ever anticipated. I myself find myself currently right now in a red zone where any kind of household visitation is restricted. Any travel locally and between regions is restricted. So it's tough, guys. But I guess the point of this story is one of optimism. The world is not going to grind to a halt. We're going to find solutions to this. You guys know I'm a very free market kind of person. I think the solution lies somewhere there in the free market because that's where the incentives lie as well. Just kind of my point of view, but very positive news. Wanted to share that. Let us know, as always, your thoughts about the matter below in the comments. We'll have the discussion there. And that about wraps it up for today, everybody. Hey, do be sure you're following us on all the regular social media channels and keep checking back into altcoinbuzz.io for all the latest. Go ahead, like, subscribe, share, and hit the bell to receive notifications if you guys enjoyed today's video. If you have any tech tips for me as well, I'm absolutely all ears. I'm recording this, just so you guys know, on an EOS 70D. That's a Canon DSLR with a Sigma 1.4 aperture art series lens. I'm somewhat new at this. I've been in photography for quite a while at an amateur level, but I know my way around photography. I've just never really applied it to videography. But if you guys have any helpful tips or constructive criticism, I am absolutely open to having that discussion and incorporating some of your recommendations. So please let me know. Best of luck, guys. If you choose to invest on this hump day, stay safe out there. And as always, we do hope to see you again soon in our next video. Take care.